everybody always puts looks, oh, that's the last thing. But, you know, really, when you see somebody, the first thing you're going to see are their looks.
If she's pretty, if she has slender, you know, if she's like got a little tan, that type of thing.
And yeah, looks do matter a little bit, obviously, I think.
Look at these guys looking at us. I'm so embarrassed. What am I doing here?
Jill, look, there's a cute one. Yeah, it's okay. What's wrong? Lighten up.
I think more about myself when someone flirts with me. It makes me feel good.
Clothing is part of flirting.
What attracts me right away is his sense of humor.
Eye contact. Eye contact is really big in flirting.
There really is something very deep-seated that goes on there in flirtation that, as a consequence, is very powerful and very dangerous as a result.
A lot of babes here. Better watch yourself. Oh, boy.
Come on, there's someone I want you to meet. Come on, Megan. Jill, it's Brian. You'll like him. He's not having any fun either.
Megan.
Okay, now go get a drink.
I don't drink.
I don't either.
Well, get a soda then, okay?
Do you want to get a soda?
Okay.
Highlight in my life, you know, that I could be his girlfriend was a great feeling. And I think that it really added to my self-esteem, my status at school. And
in a lot of ways, I was trying to make it the way that I saw it in the commercials or in the TV programs. And this is the way it's supposed to be.
But there wasn't really an entry in it of each other's joys and sorrows. When it got too hard, that's it. You know, I mean, there's, you know, and we'd say the words that sounded right, and we'd kind of break up.
But so many of those relationships that are physical are simply that, physical. And that will destroy any relationship because the man simply says, well, I've done it. You know, what else is there? Time to move on.
I used to just assume that, you know, well, okay, if I'm going out with a girl, I can, you know, be kissing her and making out with her, whatever. And I think I took that assumption based on a status quo that the rest of the world had, you know, that the rest of our society had.
Growing up on Days of Our Lives or General Hospital and people were having sex and babies and stuff like this here and there and here and there, you're like, well, You know, if I go out and have sex one time, oh, it must be no big deal.
The thing that drove me crazy was it always had to be in secret. You always had to hide.
You know, if you go to point A becomes old, and therefore you try B, you know, you'll never be satisfied just with stopping at one point. You're always going to want more.
Hello? Hey, Jill, I'm glad you called. Hey, how about if I pick you up tomorrow about 7?
Brian, I know you really want to go to that party, but I was just wondering if we could talk.
Well, what's the matter? Something wrong?
I've just been thinking that things are going a little too fast with us.
What do you mean by that?
I'm concerned about us. If things get more physical, our relationship might get weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I know what you mean. I've kind of been thinking the same thing. Hey, look, how about if I meet you at the Union tomorrow after class?
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay, so I'll see you then.
Brian, I really want things to work out.
Yeah, I know. So do I. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, bye-bye.
A relationship that was emotional and caring turned into a very physical relationship, and it got to the point where we'd go out, and that was the only reason we'd go out, was to go make out someplace, or total self-gratification.
The only thing you're getting to know is their body and what turns them on, that's it. Otherwise, you're not really getting to know them at all.
In my mind was always the thought that as long as we don't go all the way, it's okay.
But the further I got into it, I felt like I couldn't get out. It's more like when you feel like there's no hope and I've gone this far, I might as well keep going as far as it's possible because it's really not going to make a difference. That's kind of the way I felt.
Even though I know he doesn't really respect me, he did initially because I held back for a long time. But then once I gave in, it's like that's what he expected. And I really wanted to pull back, and that was just not cool in his book at all.
I've seen in my own life and in talking to other friends of mine that have been married even for a long time, that there can be scars. There can be lots of feelings of guilt that the things that we did beforehand, before marriage, are replayed back in your mind.
Brian, what are you doing? Brian, I really need to study my psychology.
It's gonna take more than a brick wall to stop me. I don't give up that easy. I only desire you more.
It's very, very easy to fall into a sexual-centered relationship. And you're not talking, you're not spending time together, getting to know one another, you're getting to know each other physically, but a lot of times that's all.
I think saying no is definitely worth losing a relationship over.
If the female, has to say no, the guy thinks, wow, I'm a failure. I got no charm, I got nothing, She doesn't want it, so we're done. Whereas if she could say, now, as I see it, we've got a really sharp relationship up until this point. And I don't want to lose that. And if we do that, I'm telling you right now, it would be gone. It would be lost.
But I believe it's the responsibility of both parties. I really do. I don't think it's fair to for a man to say, well, you need to tell me when I'm going too far and what's troubling you, and I don't think it's fair for the woman to reasonably think that this man, given this much stimulation, is going to be able to say, oh, darling, no, we don't want to do that. And I think that we really have to be very honest in that area.
I'm not talking about talks in dimly lit rooms, on couches where we're, a matter of inches away from each other. I'm talking about talks that sit down and say, hey, I care for you, but I care enough to draw the lines in our relationships, in our relationship rather, that lets you know just exactly how much I do care.
If you just have physical relations in any way and there's really not anything else to that, there's no skill involved in that, but a really good relationship is a skill, and it takes a lot of work
and involvement with each other and discussions and time together, and which none of that is physical.
To give yourself to a person, to reveal who you are deep down to someone else, to entrust them with some of the problems that you have, some of the faults that you know you have, to entrust them with yourself. And that's very hard to do.
Why does he have to get these things? Of course, he only reads it for the good articles.
Usually pornography is involved from very early, and masturbation, and it's like any kind of drug. You build a tolerance for it, and the same excitement, the same things don't do the trick the way it used to. So you need more and more of it to get the same kinds of feelings, and you risk more and more to get the same kind of rush.
You start to watch a little bit of it, and you want to watch more, you want to watch more, you want to watch different kinds, and it can really just snowball into something terrible.
Pornography affects men because it gives us the desire to be married to somebody who looks that beautiful.
It's so important that we realize that yes, it does affect us when we sit down and read those magazines. It does affect us when we sit down and look at the TV screen and watch somebody get it on.
I think that lust is sinful because in some way we're saying to God, I'm not content with what you've given me.
When masturbation becomes a controlling force in our lives, when it becomes an obsession, it's wrong because it can actually hold a position of idolatrous proportion, if you understand what I'm saying.
I hear a lot from male students, what do I do with the daily sexual tension that just rides on the surface? And that's often difficult to respond to also. I say be understanding of yourself, know what you're sensitive to, know what you need to avoid. Be really harsh with yourself if you have to. There's certain movies that I just don't need to watch because of the way it stimulates me or the thoughts that it produces. There's certain books that I just can't read.
It's a paradox because to fulfill ourselves, as we would term it, okay, I'm going to go do this so that I can simply relieve or get rid of this frustration. There's only more frustration after the fact because there's the guilt to deal with. There's also the frustration that, hey, I'm not sharing this with anyone. This is just me, myself, and I.
Megan left school today for the rest of the term. I already miss her. She's been my friend forever. We always tell each other everything. At least I thought so. Maybe that's why I was so shocked at what she told me yesterday. I've spent so much time at her house and had no idea what really happened to her when her dad was still there. I know that happens to a lot of kids in their home, but Megan, and now the guy that she's been seeing, he just used her and then he walked away like her dad did. And she thinks there's something wrong with her. It's not her, it's them. Oh, I hate them for what they've done to her.
As I reflect back on some of my relationships during the college years, it was like a magnet. I found myself in relationships, being pulled into relationships that I could see had unhealthy components.
I would come home with, black eyes and hurt arms, hurt knees sometimes, because I had really bad knees at the time. And he always told me that he loved me. And I thought that he did. He was the first guy to ever tell me that he loved me.
Most victims feel damaged, like they're spoiled goods in some way, that they've been damaged, tainted, unclean, dirty. And that's why promiscuity is so common among girls who've been molested.
It made me feel unclean. It made me feel like, well, I'm not, who am I trying to save myself for? I've already been made dirty. I felt like I'd lost the innocence
It's like a seed that's planted in the ground and covered over. The roots begin to grow deep. And so it is with the incest and molestation, is when it is not exposed to the light, it limits God's ability to heal. And that's why one of the major areas that I work with victims on is bringing it to the light. Because God says, whatsoever is made manifest by the light.
Guess who?
Someone wonderful, I hope. Are you?
Well, my mom thinks so.
I'm not your mother.
What's bothering you?
I just miss Megan. Just been thinking about what happened to her. That guy told her that he loved her.
He didn't mean it.
Well, how do you know when someone means it?
You care more for the other person than you care for yourself.
Is that how you feel about me?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
I don't think that sex is a cure for loneliness, because loneliness cannot be fixed just by the physical proximity of someone.
It was he and I. I worshipped him. You know, he worshipped me.
But it's an emotional down. You realize that this is something that is supposed to fulfill your deepest desires, and it hasn't. And there's something really disappointing about that.
And people are being careless about sexual relationships, not thinking about the consequences. Our society lies to us. We see everything as temporary and disposable. A marriage doesn't work, you get out of it. And when a pregnancy comes along and you abort the baby.
She's so beautiful. And I want her so much.
He loves me. He really does love me. And I love him. I want to know him as deeply as possible.
We decided, well, we're getting married, so we can go ahead and make love. And so with that decision, we did. But the relationship went downhill, and communication just fizzled out, and the whole relationship did.
Around April, which was when the baby would have been born, I started to really, really hurt. I started taking long walks by myself and imagining what my life could have been like if I had had the baby. I missed it, and I ached for it.
There's been an intense bond made, and that bond has been broken. And when you realize just how intense that bond is, and what a terrible thing you've broken, there's a tremendous amount of guilt there of how you've impacted this woman's life.
And I felt really alone a lot of times, and I felt really dirty a lot, like I just was scum. But most of the time I just felt kind of cold.
I don't think we did the right thing. Thanks. It seems like we can't talk anymore. Seems like I can't talk to God either.
I found that when I've talked with different people who have had sexual experiences outside of the bonds of marriage, that there's this deep sense of regret, and hurt and pain. And it's almost like they're walking wounded because they've had this relationship with another person. But that's not the way that God intended sexual involvement. God made it as a wonderful thing within the bounds of marriage to bring a sense of intimacy to the relationship that really nothing else can really bring.
Sex is not emotionally safe if I have no idea if you're going to be around tomorrow, or if you're still going to care about me after this passion has passed. I do not have any desire to put myself in a situation where someone is going to walk away with part of me and me never see or hear from them again.
And I thought sleeping with Brian would help me know him better. But I seem to know him less. And in fact, I'm not even sure of him at all.
$1 for your thoughts.
I was just wondering who you are.
Guess I got my dollar's worth. And what did you decide?
Do you think we made a mistake, doing it?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. But it's not something we can change now.
Well, maybe we could talk to somebody.
Talk to somebody?
Yeah, like the pastor of our church or something?
No. This is between you and me.
I think the worst thing that I felt during those 4 months was that I had no hope and that I'd gone away from God. And the worst thing I did was not the sexual things or the partying things. The worst thing I did was specifically telling God, I know you want me to do this, but I've decided to do this.
There are just parts of us that are created, I really believe, to only be fulfilled by God Himself. And until that part of us is filled, I don't think He's a jealous God. He's not going to let anything else fill that space, including sex.
I think God just really, by His grace, allowed me to really turn around and see that He was the one that was really going to love me in the way that I had hoped that these different guys would, in that intimate way that I wanted him to.
I doubt Brian will ever again offer anything for my thoughts. I don't have anyone else to talk to. Either they'll think I'm silly to worry about it, or they'll be horrified that I slept with him. I think that I'm going to explode. Wait, I can talk to Megan.
Whenever a problem comes up, we automatically figure, oh God, I'm the only one facing this, how could this be? And you keep it bottled up. You don't want to tell anybody because, like, oh no, they're going to think I'm weird. I'm the only one. They all have perfect lives and they're not suffering the way I am, so I can't let them know.
If you keep it bottled up, you may never get over what you're dealing with.
That was probably the most important, was having some friends who were accountable, because for that next year, I'd say I was really still weak and knew it. Just having friends there who really prayed for me and helped me in times that were really, really testing.
And when I knew my best friend was praying for my heart and my mind to be focused on God, He made a big, big difference.
It is so necessary just to communicate feelings, to talk about your past, and to not hold them in, because they'll kill you.
I better get going. I got an exam in the morning.
Brian, do you really have to go before we talk this out?
Look, I understand the way you feel. I feel the same way. And I know you want to talk to someone, but I can't do that right now, okay? I might not see you again before I go. And if I don't, I just want to tell you that... I want to tell you that I hope you do well in your exams.
Brian,
Yeah?
have a nice Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah, you too.
I wonder if things will ever be right again. It's such a mess. So is my relationship with God.
It was harder to face God because the guilt was so extreme. I just felt like, how could He look at me? I must be such an ugly person in His eyes.
I think before I thought I was pretty good. I thought I was above losing my virginity. I was above rebelling against God. But all this showed me very clearly that I am not.
What I can say is that I know that Christ has forgiven me. I know that he died on a cross 2,000 years ago for me. I know that he loves me more perfectly than any human being ever could.
So I know that although I took a liberty that was not my own, that I'm forgiven because Jesus has taken that from me. And now the wounds and the scars I have can slowly be healed because God is at work in me.
Let's go out in the open before it's too late. Let's walk in the sunshine. We've got no time to wait. We don't need deception, and we don't need the games. We don't need the shadows, and we sure don't need the shame. No more secrets, no more lies in the shadows of the night. Why don't we face these things together in the honest morning light? Forgiveness is waiting, warm as the sun in the morning sky. Let's go out in the open. No more secrets, no more secrets, no more lies in the shadows of the night. Why don't we face these things together in the honest morning light? Forgiveness is waiting.